Greetings. We welcome everyone to the yet another episode of the weekly Manna. In this episode, I will be bringing to you a short message. In this message, I will be talking to you about the necessity to move into the higher realms in our spiritual life. In our Christian life, it's mainly sin that holds us back from proceeding into higher realms. We sometimes are quite satisfied at the levels we are. We don't have a desire to move into our higher realms. It's the pleasures of this world, lust of this world, the passion towards the things of this world, our desires of the things around us that always hinders from our up movement. Now, in Hebrews chapter 12 verses 1, Paul the writer of the epistle of Hebrews, does say, entangling sins or easily entangled sins, sin that easily gets grab hold of us. But it's high time that we understand the importance of saying goodbye to these sins and moving ahead. When we talk about sins, we got to consider one thing. We got to really accept the fact that sin is pleasureful. Sin does bring pleasure. But the pleasure that sin gives, it's short-lived. But the consequences of sin is disastrous. We think that we might be able to come out of sin in a few minutes or after a few moments. But sometimes sin takes us into its pleasure for quite some time. As a result of which, we sometimes move into greater depths into the sin. Finally, having a conscience of guilt, having a conscience of shame, losing the conscience, good conscience with God, spoiling our testimonies, we end up in a very pathetic state. But we really need to say goodbye to the sins so that we can move or take a flight into a greater heights. I've heard about this story. There was once a pilot who was flying a cargo aircraft. And as he was up thousands of feet high up in the air, he was on his own. And what happened is that he heard some nibbling sounds behind him. Unfortunately, he could not do anything to check what was this noise behind him. It was a cargo aircraft, and he was the sole pilot. But an idea came to his mind. What he did is that he took the aircraft to few thousand more feet higher after he put his oxygen mask on. So he put his oxygen mask and then he took the flight to a greater height. After a few seconds, after he took the flight to that great height, the nibbling sounds behind him stopped. And then he finally reached his destination and he landed the aircraft safely. After some time, he wanted to know what was this nibbling noises behind him. He was quite curious about it. He went in search of it and he found that there was a small rat that was actually eating away some of the important cables that were running into the cockpit. And he thought to himself, if he had not taken moving the aircraft into a higher altitude, it would have cost his own life. What happened is that when the aircraft took into a higher altitude, it deprived the rat of the oxygen it needed to breathe, subsequently leading it to die. My dear brothers and sisters who listen to me today, let me tell you, God wants us to move into a higher spiritual realms. Enjoy the spiritual gifts that He has given. Enjoy the spiritual blessings He has put in store for us. And to do this, we really need to say goodbye to the entangling sins. Colossians chapter 3 verses 1 says, therefore, if you have been raised up with Christ, keep seeking the things above, where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Verse number 2 says, set your mind on things above, not on things that are on the earth. Are we able to focus ourselves above? Let's keep our eyes, let's put our visions above. Let's have that passion to follow Christ with our whole heart. And that is what this generation needs. That is what you and me need. And God really wants us to soar into greater heights in our spiritual lives. May God bless us all. Thank you.